Welcome to the Hole in the Wall Business Podcast with Bill and James. I'm James Groves, and along with my business partner, Bill DeMent, we want to share our journey as small business owners with you. As owners of Hole in the Wall Drywall Repair, we will attempt to peel back the curtain of owning a small business in the trade service industry and talk about the many adventures of owning a small business. Hey, Bill.
James, another year older.
I know it.
Didn't you feel it?
Yeah. So welcome. This is going to be launched the second week of January. So we're in 2025 now when this gets released.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Okay.
And I really kind of wanted to have a more casual conversation. We don't have like a business guest. We do have a guest with us though. We definitely want to talk with our good friend Trish Murphy. Trish,
welcome in.
I love that every time I come, there's applause. It's fantastic.
Right. And those who
know we do that for everyone. I'm just
and those who don't know, Trish runs our entire marketing. She is our outsourced CMO. She owns Marketing Smarty Pants, female-owned business, veteran-owned business, just a killer person, good friend. She camps in our office. We have lots of fun. So thank you for being here, Trish.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, welcome in.
Happy.
And you're such a huge part of our conversations, every day. I thought it'd be just nice to kind of have you here. You do these things. We've not done an off the wall podcast since like in July 23.
Yeah,
so
too long.
It's been a long time. So
Yeah.
we get too serious. This is gonna be a very casual conversation. We're kind of gonna talk through a few things, and we're just gonna have it lasts as long as it lasts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Off the walls are great. So
Yeah. We are recording it early, so there's no libations and shenanigans. We all have work to do when we're done, but
we do.
Mhm.
We do.
last
That's
one we
okay.
did it at like 7, 8 o'clock at night, so we could just go home and relax. But
Yeah.
so anyways, I thought I don't know, with the three of us here, we can kind of talk about, what's been going on in Hole in the Wall. I mean, this is we talk about other businesses a lot, and we've talked about some of our journey recently, but, we haven't talked specifically like franchising since May of 23.
Yeah.
Will Nicoloso was our sales guy back then. We had him on the podcast. And I just thought we could catch everybody up to kind of see, what's been going on, how many franchises that we had, what's the process like? Because despite what, how glamorous it seems, it's hard. Franchising is hard. And franchisors, and we found out after we started franchising that like 90% of all companies that franchise fail.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. Alan George told them, like,
I'm glad you didn't tell me that earlier.
Thanks for.
Yeah, no, we didn't want to know that.
Don't bring us down, Alan. Alan George did that.
Well, it's impossible to know how much you don't know early on. And a friend of ours in franchising said recently, I'm excited to talk to you guys to just see how much you've grown up over the past year doing this.
Yeah.
Because you just don't know. And there is this sense, Trish, that kind of every 6 weeks we just know more than we did.
Yeah, it's an exciting part. It's interesting because I've been, with you guys through the day to day for the last year and a half. Really, there's been big changes in the last year and a half, but of course I've been, in the day to day before that. But there's been significant things happen in the last year and a half since our last off the wall, and we really haven't really talked about it a whole lot. So one of the things I'd like to do is give you guys a chance to, update folks on the big stuff and even some of the behind the scenes, like what led to some of these big changes, working with FranGrowth. What did that require? And then like the ultimate gut check that you guys went through, because I saw how you wrestled with this decision in a good way, in a very responsible way.
Mhm.
And you realized what it was going to require to take this next step, this next path. So can you kind of give a brief, like what's happened in the last year and a half, the big stuff, and then really go into the due diligence you went through and your own personal exploration that you had to go through?
Yeah, there was a lot. I got to tell you, we spent a couple years just getting the franchising off the ground, getting all the paperwork done.
And there was some expense there too. It wasn't tremendous, but it was. There was expense involved.
I mean, we probably spent a good $90,000 just to kind of make all that happen. And finally, at the end of 23, we sold our very first franchise. We were at a franchise show. We met Andrew Miller. He now owns our Polk County Lakeland franchise.
And is doing terrific, by the way.
Fantastic. And then right on the heels of him, Ron Kimraj, and he bought in early January 24, And so then we had 2 units coming into the new year. And Ron runs the Villages, also doing great. Actually had a record month this past month.
Yeah.
Doing great. And then we were excited. And we were trying to figure out, we were still working with a company called FMS, who's been on the show multiple times. Great guys over there. And they're good at closing the deal, but it was our responsibility to bring the leads in. And so, well, what works? Well, we don't know what works. I mean, we're just drywall guys and business guys. We're trying to figure out, how should we set up? So we're leaning on people and asking people, and we're figuring out that, we'll invest in this franchisegator.com or franchiseopportunities.com. And we were just started learning about brokerage groups. And the advice was, you're too small. Don't do that. They take a huge commission. I mean, we're talking, they take like 40% or more commission. And, and our franchise fees were a little low. And it's like, we wouldn't make any money. So the advice was, don't do it. And so we started doing shows, and our very first show landed us our very first deal. So we were really excited about shows. They're great. I've done lots of videos and podcasts on the franchise shows.
And through the year we went, and that first show was in November 2023.
Yeah.
And then we did Dallas, Miami. We did one other one too.
We did Houston.
Oh yeah, Houston. That was the other one we did.
Yeah. And we didn't attend, we attended, but didn't go to the Orlando show. And they're, again, very good. But when we were at one of these shows, we started making relationships with other franchisors and other vendors. And I ran into a guy who we've seen at multiple shows before. And he works for a company called Tenant. His name is Steve Bowles. And Tenant does franchise funding. He'll help you do a 401k rollover, help you with an SBA loan. He's help to get the franchisee funded to buy their location. And we became pals. We just kind of hung out each other's booths a little bit. And he says, "Hey, have you guys ever heard of FranGrowth?" And I go, "No idea what that means." He says, "Well, they're a FSO." Didn't know what that means. A franchise sales organization. And no, we're talking, this is like May, right? So we had gone from January to May with zero traction.
Yeah. And the issue is, if you don't have somebody who is kind of able to mentor you, you get mixed messages, because so many different entities out there have something to sell you, to help you. And some of them, I guess, really want to help you. And I think they do their best, but they're not inexpensive. And some of them don't do any good at all. All they do is just draw a check every month.
And you don't know who's
and you don't know who. You don't know who, right? So I know you're getting ready to roll into meeting FranGrowth, but boy, that was but even when they showed up, we didn't know.
We didn't know. Well, and so when we're talking, and we're really all the franchisors, we're all talking to each other. We're on these shows, we're emailing, we're texting back and forth. It's like, "Hey, what's working for you? What's working for you?"
Yeah.
And and no one's really clicking. The shows do really well, but none of the emerging brands that we were kind of friends with were really clicking. Some units didn't even have, some franchisors didn't even have maybe 1 or 2 units. That's it. And they were really friends and family. They weren't even like fresh leads. And then when Steve was like, "Well, have you heard of FranGrowth?" And I was like, "No idea." He said, "Well, have you heard of Neighborly?" So of course, Neighborly is the largest home service brand owner in the nation.
Yeah, I think they have something like close to 25 or 30 brands, all home service brands.
Home services. I mean,
they are the Goliath.
Sure, like Mr. Appliance and Mr. Handy and Mr. Rooter. They own all the Misters mostly. And I know who they are. He says, "Well, the guys who used to run that broke off onto their own company." And little did I know, they weren't just the guys, but they were like the guys. Dan and Brandon were really big wigs at Neighborly. And so they kind of knew what the process was. Neighbor's been around for decades. And so I said, well, I literally just opened my phone, went to the FranGrowth.co website, and I just opened it. And just so at least it was in my tabs, so I could, went on about the show when we were in, Houston. And then the next day I kind of went online and kind of researched about them and kind of learned about them. They're a faith-based company. God is first in everything they're doing.
Which we find very appealing.
Very appealing. And just learning about the president and learning about Brandon. Brandon, one of the owners, he's in a nonprofit called God is CEO, and they travel all over the world. They're in Africa, of course, near and dear to my heart. And so I was intrigued. And so I just went on their contacts and just kind of said more information and put my information in, mentioned that Steve from Tenant sent me. And like later that day, I got a call from Dan, the owner, the president of FranGrowth, and we just talked. and he wanted to learn about the brand. Come to find out, they don't take brands very often because it takes a lot of work to develop a brand, and they only take maybe 2 or 3 a year. And it was already middle of the year of 2024.
Although it looks to me like they're ramping that up just a little bit. I think they were doing 2 or 3 brands a year as they were starting out, and then as they build their infrastructure out, then they're taking on
they took our 3, and then late this year they took on another one.
Okay,
24 duct cleaning company.
Oh, is that right? I wasn't even aware of that.
And they got 2 more, I think, popping off early 25.
So they're ramping.
So they are ramping. Again, I didn't know what it was, and we scheduled a series of phone calls in where we just kind of disclose, here's who we are, here's what we do. They knew the space because Brandon is in many businesses and knows all about the couple competitors we have. And so he knew the unit economics. He knew the profitability of drywall repair. And unlike painting and other home services, there's a lot of HVAC companies that are franchising. There's only a couple drywall companies.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, I think they were impressed with just our look and feel, our brand. They knew what we had was special.
They identified that we had something going on as soon as at first glance.
Yeah. And it was a really hard decision because Bill and I, we're pinching pennies. I mean, we literally take very little debt out. We bootstrap this company from start to finish.
We don't take extravagant pay.
Nope. Heck, Bill and I haven't had a raise in probably 7 years.
Yeah.
And we don't even take draws. We literally put everything back in the company. This is just our baby that we're raising. And being in this new eye-opening experience, FranGrowth's like, well, listen, things are different. You will be joining brokerage groups, which is not cheap. You will be having people fly in for meet the team days, what we would call a discovery day. And they outlaid a budget for us. And frankly, Bill and I had multiple moments.
We saw the first budget. We went.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So to interject, can we back up a little bit and talk about what were the things that FranGrowth, what do they look for in a brand? Because I know they're pretty particular about who they work with. So can you explain what were some of the things that what's their vetting process look like and what were they looking for?
Good question.
Well, they were already familiar with the vertical. They had looked at at least one other drywall repair franchise in the past. They knew the numbers well. And I think by comparison, they could see right away that the look and feel was there. They asked questions about training. I mean, we were volunteering a lot of this stuff, but the questions were going to be coming anyway.
Right.
Because they're going to dig in. They want to make sure they understand who they're working with.
They needed a company that I think, first of all, had integrity and had a good brand. But we had processes. So we had very strong training. We had very strong operational support. And they asked us in-depth stuff. I mean, they looked at financials. They made sure that we were, can you even afford this?
Right.
Because if you can't, this is going to sink you.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the hard choice. And
they looked at the marketing. Thanks to you, Trish.
Yeah.
We had a strong hand there. We just,
oh man,
the stuff that we already had in the can was enough for them to go, oh. I mean, they really did like what they saw.
Yeah. And knowing that we call you in-house marketing because you literally live in our warehouse, but to have in-house marketing that's been doing this for, several years, knows our brand, a lot of the other brands out there don't have it.
Right.
And even people that are successful with them, they don't have it. They have to go outsource. So we had that already.
Yeah.
And Dan, he just said again the other day, he says, we are an emerging brand that acts like we have 100 units already.
Yeah.
We just have a lot of people don't do what we did. That's just my I don't know, OCD, what do you want to call it? Just I have just a need to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I attribute that to you, James. You're right. Because you're constantly going, we need to do and I'm like, how do you even know that's a thing?
Yeah. He pushes. He does push the team to make sure you have resources in place. Ready before, if he sees we're going a direction, he's like, we need that.
Yeah.
That's the next thing we need.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, not that there's a really negative side, but sometimes we've misguessed and done something and spent money and now it's still on the shelf or something like that.
Yeah.
But I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it. The other important thing I wanted to point out to you, Trish, when companies like FranGrowth are vetting companies that they may want to take on, they're looking at the company. So they want to, how does this horse look? Okay.
Right.
You're a horseman. So
Oh yeah. Yeah.
is that what they call you guys, horsemen?
Yes.
Okay.
Equestrians.
Okay,
Yes.
what is the horse? What does this thing do? But more important, who's the jockey?
Right.
And they really did look at that. And I think that they liked me fine, but they were really impressed with James. And I think they felt like we were a solid team.
Yep.
Listen, we're not teenagers. We're not we're not immature. We're not flighty. We tell people all the time, listen, we're new to franchising, but Lord knows we're not new to business.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
very true. So can you talk about, I know the price tag to launch this, right, was
6
was
figures.
significant. Yes. So can you talk about like that process you guys went through to vet them, and then your own personal, like y'all wrestled with this.
We did.
So can you talk about what was that like for both of
Yeah.
you?
I mean, there's a personal, because it's not just Bill and I. I mean, we have families.
Right.
And Honeywell isn't flush with cash. We've got 6 figures laying around just to go pay out of pocket for something. And so what we had to really wrestle with is, okay, I mean, FranGrowth is like, what is your future? They wouldn't even talk to us if we did not plan an exit. They don't even want companies that don't plan an exit.
Right.
So there had to be an exit in the 3 to 5 year future for us, at least the willingness to have one. A lot of legacy founders, they just want to keep the business going and pass it down, which is nothing wrong with that generational, stuff, but that's not what FranGrowth wanted. Brandon is a managing partner and part owner in a very large private equity group. They buy brands. They own multiple large brands, stretch zones and all kinds of brands. And so they weren't interested in someone who wanted a legacy. They wanted someone who wanted to grow. And so for us, it was like, okay, well, we do want to grow. We want to grow, but we want to get out because Bill and I aren't getting any younger. I'm a little younger than Bill, but
I don't know. Tim, my doctor says I am getting younger.
Well, you heard it here, folks.
Yeah,
with his magic machine. Hey, you lost 15 years.
We're trying to take care of ourselves better. And so the goal is, we want to get to 125 units. That's 125 locations is a lot. I mean, we have 3, so it's we got a long journey ahead of us.
Mm-hmm.
But the plan that FranGrowth has, you can see the trajectory. You can see, and it's proven, it's worked. And then, of course, our exit. Our exit at a high value. So we're like, okay, well, we're going to put a lot of money in now, but we're going to see, a lot of money
exponential growth
at the end.
Yeah, but you never know, So we study history to understand the future. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
So the people who had history with FranGrowth were 2 companies in particular, Home Smiles and Set the Stage.
Yeah.
Set the Stage is out of Utah.
Uh-huh.
And Home Smiles is from Silicon Valley in California. And frankly, the jockey out there was probably one of the finds of this entire process, Jess Love.
And Jess' podcast airs the week before this one, so our audience would know who he is.
He is a extremely intelligent guy, very motivated, and he was very open with us and told us some very encouraging things, like, if FranGrowth knows what they're doing. He said, when we decided to franchise, we looked at all the major franchise sales organizations. And he said, but when we settled on FranGrowth, when we met them, he said it was an instant click.
Nice.
They know what they're doing. They're above board. And they really connected with that.
Yeah.
And he told us things like, and he'd almost chuckle as he said, if they're looking at you and offering you, you got something. You just, it's the Willy Wonka golden ticket. You've hit.
Yeah.
And it has felt like that, because what Jess shared with us has been borne out in the, 5-6 months that we've been working with FranGrowth. They're always on what they're supposed to be doing. If you've got a call with them, they're always right on time. If they have deliverables, they're right on time. You know what I mean? And of course, we operate by those same principles, try to be on time with quality stuff. Thank you, Trish. Always delivering the goods. I'm telling you, impressive.
Thank you.
And so, and then the team out at Utah with Courtney Clark,
and Set the Stage.
They were very encouraging. And even since, like, we signed up with them last month, we were able to sit in on some of their meet the team days. So we were just a fly on the wall, but we got to see how they did it. Man, that is invaluable, Trish. you don't know what you don't know until you see somebody do it. We had a
Right.
general idea,
Mm-hmm.
but all of a sudden we're like, oh yeah, we want to add that. James was taking notes.
Oh,
Mhm.
Screenshot every slide.
Yeah.
Because we're vetting them. Do we want to be with FranGrowth? And they're vetting us. Do we want hole in the wall?
Do we really think they
So
got the goods?
So they're checking on us and we're checking on them. But when Jess was basically like, he says, if they want you and you say no, you're an idiot. He was just like, if they are saying they want to help grow hole in the wall, you better say yes.
Yeah. And the other things Jess was saying was they gave us a pro forma that said you'll sell, whatever, 8 or 10 this year, you'll sell 25 next year. He said, forget that. He said they blew that out of the water.
Wow.
He hit, I believe this is a true statement, that Home Smiles hit their 100th territory sold in 16 or 18 months.
Yeah.
And when we spoke with him last week, now they're at about
147.
They're right at 24 months. So 2 years they sold. He has 60 owners and 142 territories sold in 24 months.
That's incredible.
Yeah, he's got a great product, but FranGrowth,
no, they really do have.
But FranGrowth just knows, So their pro forma is like, okay, well, you're going to be part of. So here's some organic searches. Here's the budget for this. You're going to be part of the FBA, the TES, the IFPG. Didn't know what those meant.
All the letters.
All the letters. Of course, we knew Liz Leonard because she was part of the IFPG.
Mm-hmm.
She's been on the show a couple of times, and she's a broker, franchise advisor, and so we knew about them, but we didn't know why it's important to be part of those organizations.
Right.
We were always told we're too small. Don't invest the money; it's too expensive.
Well, that's where we were getting mixed advice.
Yeah.
People were saying, no, you're too small. You don't want to do that. And as soon as we did, people were going, yeah, that's exactly what you should do.
Yeah.
I mean, they were talking out of both sides of their mouth.
Yeah.
So how do you know what's what, Trish?
Right.
How do you get a grip on it if you don't have experience with it?
Well, we spent tens of thousands of dollars in almost 2 years developing this brand. And none of the avenues that we advertised with, except for the very first show, panned out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Ron was a personal friend. He saw the brand, so he bought in. Andrew was, he saw us at the show, who had already tried getting a franchise from another drywall company for 3 months, and they ignored him basically.
Yeah, he wasn't.
He's like, take my money, and then he came across us, like, sold within 6 weeks. He's bought in.
Yeah, that happened quick. Yeah,
and so we know what doesn't work. It just, it just you got to kiss 100 frogs before you find one Prince Charming.
And frankly, we reasoned if we can have 50% of the success that Home Smiles is having. Mm-hmm. Listen, if after 2 years I can say I have 30 owners and 74 territories,
wonderful,
we're winning.
Yeah,
that's winning.
Yeah,
and as we've approached the end of 2024, it's become apparent that as things have been built up and laid out and organized over the past 3 or 4 months, this thing's fixing to click and go. You can just see it.
But Bill and I had to really think about it. There was a personal sacrifice. We're talking mortgaging houses and we had to go find money to do this.
Right.
And it was like, it wasn't an easy process. We had to pray about it. We had to really think about it.
Yeah.
And then finally they're like, if you guys are serious, we want to come see your operation. So then Dan and Brandon flew down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember that.
In August, I think.
Yeah.
And they flew down and just gave us a look. Mm-hmm. Basically, do we like us?
Well, and the other thing was we needed to get Kelly on board with it.
That's right.
We needed to get Mary, my wife Mary, on board with it.
Yeah. Well, because it's a family decision, right? And you're talking 2 families have to say yes, right? Because it takes 2 yeses and 1 no.
It's 2 families, and how many families that are tied in at Hole in the Wall Orlando.
Exactly.
Those future rides on some of this as well.
Yeah. Well, what really sold it for me is when I sat down with my wife Kelly and I showed her the budget, the pro forma, and how this plays out, that there's a break-even point within, the first couple of years, and now we start ramping up. Now, she is an accountant, right? So she knows numbers. She works for a very large company. And she looked at it, and she was just like, James, this is a no-brainer. We have to do this. But this requires us to take personal sacrifice. And so when I saw her get excited, and I saw her all in, I was like, okay. And she literally told me, she says, we're all in.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, we're all in. Listen, So we had to be there before FranGrowth even said yes.
Yeah.
And then they came to visit us. And then even at the table in our conference room, they didn't say they liked us. Matter of fact, they kept their cards close to the chest. They was like, all right, cool. Well, we're going to go back and then we're going to pray about it. We're going to fast about it. And we'll let you know sometime early next week if we accept you, basically, if we award you this, which is really some of the same terminology that we use now with our future franchise candidates.
Right.
But there's a psychology about it. We were just chomping at the bit. And when they said, okay, welcome aboard, and we signed those papers, it was like, all right, hold on, buckle up, because it's going to get crazy.
Yeah. And it's, and the momentum is on the rise. You can feel it building. And boy, 2025, James, Trish, it's going to be more than we've ever had before. Just better, richer, faster, stronger.
Yeah. I feel like we've just been revving our engines on the sidelines, just waiting for the opportunity to just put it in drive and go.
Yeah.
Well, in some ways, right? It feels like that, but I want to go over, like, since you've signed on with FranGrowth, like they gave a bunch of homework, right? Even as prepared as you were, right? Can you walk everybody through, like, what's that homework? Because once you signed with him, there was a lot of work that still needed to be done.
So much.
Can you talk through, like, what was that work? Like, what?
Yeah, there was so much, because we knew that it was going to take 90 days to kind of onboard us.
Yeah, they were very upfront about that.
They had to go hire a salesperson for us. And Bill and I kind of talk about this quite often, but we actually have our own full-time salesperson with FranGrowth that spends 8 hours plus a day just trying to work on our brand. That we've never had that before. But being part of these organizations, you had to have collateral. You had to have marketing stuff. You had to have, there are things called one sheets. I don't know what a one sheet was. Well, one sheet is, on one sheet, here's the highlight reel of Hole in the Wall. And it had to look great. It had to have key components. Here's what it called. We have a one sheet for the broker, which has commissions. We got a one sheet for the candidate that has no commissions. And we had to have all of this data. Now, we got good data, but man, Trish, you guys had to really dig to build these one sheets. And then we had to have what they call a 2-minute drill. And this is like, 5, 10, 20 page that a broker can look at in 2 minutes and really be really confident about the brand. Because what we didn't know is we used to sell to the end candidate.
Right.
We were selling to the Andys and the Rons and the guys at the shows. And now we're no longer doing that. Now we're selling or educating the brokers, because the brokerage firms, like there's 600 brokers in the IPG. There's like 200 plus in the FDA.
And with that amount of people, their reach is so much farther. They can touch people that we would never get to.
Right.
And these brokers have their own pipelines of candidates. So they're out there advertising. They're out there. That's why their commissions are so high, because they can spend thousands of dollars a month just trying to put the fishing line out in the water to try and catch candidates.
Yeah.
And so now we have to educate all these brokers on who we are and why we are a good candidate to put in their system. We've done shows on this before, but when our friends, like I remember when Michael Vitale with Wild One Day Paint was trying to find a franchise to purchase. He's just looking for a franchise. He lived in Brazil and wanted to come to America, and he talked to a broker, and the broker's like, okay, well, here's what we want, and spent a couple hours trying to hone down. And he had like a Marco's Pizza, pool cleaning business, and then a Wild One Day Paint. He got 3 options. There's tens of thousands of franchises out there. And so how did his broker narrow it down to those 3? And I'm like, well, how can Hole in the Wall become one of those 3?
For somebody, yeah.
So now we are working specifically on how, on selling or educating the brokers so we can be part of their system. And now we've got thousands of brokers all over the country that we're talking with on a daily basis, and Hole in the Wall is now popping off. And then what FranGrowth brought to the table is a system that we didn't know we needed. Like even the onboarding system for us is like, hey, we're going to talk to you. Can you got some money? Good. You got the money. Great. Come on in. Let's talk to Bill and James. And then we would talk to them, and then they go back. You like it? Yeah. And then they come do a discovery day. And if you like us, we'd sell. It was just like it was somewhat process driven, but boy, we would skip a step or two just to get the sale. And God bless our other sales guys, Nick Avina. Thank you so much for helping us get where we were. But we needed the structure of FranGrowth. Being an ops guy, being someone that's got processes, I liked the process. When they logged me into their HubSpot, and I could see the process of how many people. When I logged in and I saw Home Smiles on HubSpot, like hundreds of leads, and then just every step of the way just weeds out the ones who aren't going to qualify, and he just weeds them all out until you get to the very end. And so now Home Smiles does a monthly Meet the Team Day where there's I don't know, 5 to 12 candidates in every single Meet the Team day. And they close 80 to 85% of those.
Yeah.
You know, good grief. I mean, Bill and I are excited because we have a founders call coming up the 3rd of January, and we've got 3 candidates on the line, a husband and wife team, and 2 other candidates that want to learn more about hole in the wall. So Bill and I are just going to go on a Zoom call and just kind of share our heart with these candidates.
And part of what you want to share is we have a genuine interest in seeing other people succeed with this. James, we saw what this business did.
Right.
It's $1 million business.
Yeah.
And we've seen how it's grown over the years. And it's true, it's in some of our literature, but I am really excited to show other people how to make a really good living and have a business that can be sold and or passed along to family.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Well, that's the asset side of it. So, I mean, and even when Dan was talking with Andrew from Lakeland, you know, he's like, listen, this is an asset. So when you go to retire or you want to leave early, you have this asset that's sellable. You're not just buying in a franchise that's going to, when you're done, you close the doors.
Yeah.
This is an actual thing that you can sell. It's got a commodity to it, which is why we're in business, right? We were trying to build this asset up so it's very valuable, and we can get a nice dollar sign down the road, Lord willing.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that once we were sold, and then a lot of the hard work we had to do. I mean, we were pushing your team, Trish. I mean, God bless Casey, just needing the new collateral. We had to redesign all kinds of stuff. We're still in the process. We're going to redesign our websites and all kinds of stuff. But having that need, but having FranGrowth kind of push us for that. And then all of a sudden we started going to brokerage shows, and we got to like do basically speed networking. You know, we're just going to, here's who we are. Here's what we do. Here's why you should put our name in front of
But you know what? A lot of encouragement came from that too. Some of the brokers would come through and they sit down at your table and they want to hear your story. And when they stand up, they go, yep, I get it. And you're going to be getting territory checks from us.
And I didn't know what that was. What's a territory check?
Right,
you know, because every territory is available. What are you talking about? And then we learned we can't be in every state. Because every state is different. Like different Florida laws. Is a notification state. So we have to let the state of Florida know, pay a fee, that we're going to be selling franchise. And it's just a one-time fee done. But other states are annual. And then other states, they don't even care. They don't give a rip. Yeah, whatever you want. And then other states like California and New York and Michigan, they're these, come on board. But we're going to audit your books, and every 2 years you're going to have to pay a fee, and it's going to take you 2 years to get approved. And I don't even know why anyone would want a franchise in those states right away. Not as an emerging brand, because they make it just so difficult. But there's 26 states that are registration free. You know, like Alabama. You know, these are all just kind of like Tennessee. You don't have to register, but you have to notify in South Carolina, and we had to register in North Carolina. But we got a great attorney, and he knows all the like we didn't know we needed to register in Wisconsin. That's a registration state.
Okay.
But we had a candidate fly in last week, and we had to
and we have another one.
We got another coming in January. It was like I didn't know Wisconsin would be. Now we got 2 candidates from Wisconsin. So,
nice.
But because of FranGrowth, because of our team, we're not in the dark anymore. It literally is a text or phone call away. Hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Thoughts? And then they respond almost immediately. So having that kind of resource for us, I mean, we're paying for it, but they're earning everything that they're doing for us. They in spades.
Well, that was one of the other things that Jess Love has said to us too. He said they'll blow you away. They'll outwork you.
Yeah,
you'll get.
They really, they're earning it for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, these guys are pretty top notch.
Yeah. And then when we were at the BA, I got to meet Jess for the first time there. Lots of campfire talks, you know, by the fire pit and at night. We got to meet some great brokers, and it's exciting because then we met them, and then we just did an FBA education thing last week, and a lot of the brokers that had met us at the conference were there.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, TJ Corey, nice to meet you again. And it was just a nice.
You begin to build friendships out of just relationships, and just you know.
Yeah, and then we got Andrew Mayers. Here's a problem. Just completely off subject a little bit. We now have 2 Andrews: Andrew Miller, AM, and Andrew Mayers, AM. So in my phone, I see Andrew, and I'm not sure which Andrew this is calling me.
Just put last name.
I got to add those last names in.
Well, I got last names, but you know, again, at first glance, Miller and Mayer, you know, they're very similar. Mm-hmm. And I got a text from Andrew, and hey, you got a quick call, time for a quick chat. So sure. I literally just pressed reply and the phone rang, and I thought it was going to be Andrew Mayers from Waco, Texas. And it was Andrew Miller from Lakeland. I go, hey, Andy, how's it going? And it's like, I'm going to have to like code them in my phone.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
No, that's only going to get
Maybe
worse.
do their last name and then their first name.
Maybe. Or I'll just put like Polk County in front of Andrew Miller. But side note,
Good
just
problems to have.
very
though,
good
right?
problems to have.
Yeah.
But Andrew Mayers then came on full time at FranGrowth to do nothing but sell us. He's like less than 30 days in the mix.
Mm-hmm.
And the work that I see him doing every day is, I talk to him almost twice a day. You know, he's texting me, he's calling, hey, you got time for a quick chat? He wants to learn the brand better than we know the brand.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's digging into our literature. So explain to me, James, about this whole School of Rock. What is this going on? Why are you calling it School of Rock? And so he's just digging into all of it. I just drive. Like, I got a 45-minute drive home sometimes. We'll just talk the entire way there because they're an hour behind us. So,
Yeah.
it's easy for him. So, I don't know. A lot of rambling on there, but I know that we already have multiple candidates coming up for next year, and the trajectory is just sky's the limit, frankly.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So a part of what I wanted to do is funny because every year we have these conversations. Just we check in. We're family, right? So we're checking about our business and where we're at, what's going on. And so through this whole process, every time something new happens, we have a conversation about what's going to happen, right? And so I've gone through this for years with you guys, right? And every year is a little bit different. So I would love to spend some time and just put down some predictions or what you think or anticipate is going to happen this year. And then at the end of the year, right, we'll listen to that again and then compare notes. How did 2025 really shape up, right? What happened? What didn't happen? Is what we predicted would happen? Did it come to fruition? And what were the lessons that we learned that we didn't know we were going to learn?
Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure about 6 weeks from now, we're going to be graduating to the next level again.
I will tell you that on paper, it was predicted between 15 and 20 locations for 2025.
Okay.
Historically, the other people, the other franchises with FranGrowth are beating that number. When Bill and I sat on the Meet the Team Day, it was a virtual one for Set the Stage. And I think there was 12 candidates on that one Meet the Team Day. And Jess from Home Smiles told me a while back that they're awarding between 6 and 8 a month. Okay. So if we had half, let's just say we get 2 a month, that's 24, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we're going to be able to meet the 15 and I don't want to get too ahead of myself. I think 15 to 20 is probably my under over.
I'm a little bit of a pessimist, maybe, although not. I'm thinking 10.
I'd be happy with 10.
10 is okay. And a home run this year would be 20.
Yeah.
I think if we doubled that and got 20.
Yeah.
But based on the experiences of other companies with FranGrowth, they could absolutely blow that out of the water. And we have, out there bumping around in the franchise cosmos, we have met other brands, or at least aware of other brands, that their first sale, somebody bought 6 territories.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Home Smells they had 10-pack sold. There's a company came in and went the whole area and just bought the whole area.
And they're buying 2 more.
And they're buying 2
Jess said,
which is great because listen, it's one thing to sell, it's another thing to support. So that's
Well, that's a really good point, and that was kind of the next thing I was going to go into. Like, what's that look like? Because you guys get super busy, right? When you sell, supporting these franchises,
there's a lot of moving parts,
right? You get really busy. Good thing is you know how to run this business very, very well, right? You've been a lot of practice and hands-on doing it, right? So talk about like what do you envision that look like when you have all these franchisees you're going to support?
So it's systems. Okay, it is weekly phone calls or Zoom calls with every person. So that's until we hire a franchise developer, it's going to be me. So I have no problem. I can definitely listen. If I spend 20 hours a week talking to a candidate or to my franchisees, my day and my week is happy. I'm just fine with that. Systems for Meet the Team days. We used to do founders calls just kind of willy-nilly, discovery days willy-nilly. Now they'll be organized. We'll have one a month. They'll be on this date. They'll be at this time. Here's the process. you just did help me do the last one we just did,
Hmm.
and we got great reviews on our process and our presentation, and we'll just keep tweaking that. But we have to beef up some of our systems. Like our CRM system wasn't going to work, so we're now in the middle of creating and just kind of building a new CRM system with ServiceMinder, which is going to be very franchise centric, and frankly allow us to do a lot more reporting and a lot more flexibility, platform brand wide. But that takes effort and ramping up. My team here is just, God bless Liza. She is importing data and spreadsheets and pulling her hair out because we're not spreadsheet Excel masters, but we have to become it. And then, phone systems, and even when we onboard marketing, we have to figure out our process, and here's how we're going to onboard. Here's our checklist. Here's where we help them build their SEO, and we help them get their Google page. We help them get all the good stuff that comes with your side of the world. And then we have to time it just right. Here's the vendor for the trucks. Here's the vendor to outfit the interior and the exterior of the trucks, which comes with design, which falls on your plate. And then we have to get it, and we have to then deliver it to their location, but not too early, but not too late.
Right.
And so the timing of all that, like when do they start, what parts of training, even helping them buy their EIN number. They have to create a company. They got a DBA as hole in the wall, and there's a whole process to that.
Hmm.
And so there's a lot of work that's there. But to me, it's a process. We just have our checklist, and we just roll with it.
Yeah.
And that's I accept the challenge, and I think we're going to make mistakes, and it'll be okay.
Well, and you mentioned that make mistakes, but one of the other features we didn't touch on that we really liked about FranGrowth was that they essentially serve as your board. Everyone there, all of our connections are like, if you got a question, anything we can help you with, you just need advice, we're a phone call away.
Mhm.
That's really comforting.
Yeah.
What I really like is even when you run through, the candidates run through a whole gauntlet. The lead comes in, and then there's a lead sorting team. Donna and Daisy, they're all like, okay, great. Then they move to Andrew, and then Andrew has a phone call with them. Then they schedule a presentation where they present the brand. And then Andrew's got a PowerPoint presentation, and he runs through the brand. Do you like it? Great. Then they go through validation. They have to call franchisees that we already currently have, and they go through a validation call. Does Hole in the Wall honor what they say they're going to do? And they just get validated, not us. Because there's things that we can't say legally, but
Right.
a franchisee can.
Hmm.
We don't talk a whole lot about numbers because we legally can't say that, because we say it could be a promise, and promises are illegal. So they get validated through the candidate, through our current franchisees. And then they go through, how are you going to pay? SBA loan? Are they going to go, they talk through.
Is that an IRA
advisors on that.
conversion, or
Mhm.
where's the money coming from?
Right. And then they go through unit economics. Here's how it works. Here's how much, potentially you could make. Here's what it's going to take for you. Here's your break-even point. Here's when you're going to want to buy another truck. And they kind of talk through the unit economics. And then they talk to us, me and Bill, on a call. And then when that's all done and they're still happy, then they fly to Orlando currently. And we pay for their lodging and their food and their transportation, but they have to get here. And then we give our big presentation. And then once that's done, they have to do an exit survey, basically a self-analysis survey, where they say, here's how they think they could benefit the company, and here's how they think that the company's going to help them. They rate us. And once that's done and everyone's like, okay, we're good, then me, Bill, Brandon, and Dan have a board meeting, and we vote. And it has to be unanimous. All four of us have to say yes before the candidate is awarded a franchise. And so that accountability, that process really allows us to make sure that because we're going to be in partnership with somebody for 10 years,
Right. Right.
and we got to make sure that they're going to be a good candidate and good fit for our culture. If somebody's out there and they're foul language, and they're, don't have integrity, and they're trying to bolt on to another business that doesn't work we can't have them in our sphere.
Right.
So getting that done does take some time. So we had a candidate that was here last week, and we will probably figure out what's going to happen with him here in the next week or two.
Right.
So, but doing that monthly is going to take a lot of organization.
Mm-hmm.
But I ain't worried about it. I multiple times you want to try and think, well, how are we going to fix this problem? Instead of trying to fix the specific problem, I'm reminded that we have a toolbox full of solutions. Everybody that works with us are solutions people.
Mhm.
So Bill is, when he was in the field, he came across something that was abnormal. He didn't just go run to the hills. He solved the problem,
Right.
you know. And the large portion of our job is putting out the fires and solving the problems when they arise. And then once that problem is solved, we are now smarter than we were before the problem.
Yeah, it becomes part of your library of solutions.
Right,
I have
yeah.
this visual of a problem being presented, and then I turn around in my chair and I just pull that problem book off of the shelf and like, oh, here's what we did in the past.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's called experience.
Yes.
And,
Exactly.
and there's only one way to get that. That's just lots of
to go
lots
through
of trips around the sun.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Just doing it, putting your hand to the plow.
Which is why we're great, because frankly,
Mhm.
Bill and I have been in business a long time. We have seen so many things. I get calls from franchisees now like, oh, you won't believe what just happened to me. What would you do in this situation? And yeah, been there 20 times over. Here's how I handled it.
Yeah, here's what we
Right.
did.
You know,
Right,
here's what we did.
Yeah.
Here's a thought for you. Why don't you try it like this? Oh, that's a great idea. You know,
Yeah.
those are things we can't just train on training. They have
Yeah.
to go through the problem, and then they grow through
And
it.
frankly, a franchisee has to like you up first, right up front. They need to like you. They need to identify with the brand. But a phenomena occurs that they gain confidence in you and trust
Hmm.
because they do have a problem and they reach out to you and you help.
Right. Right.
And over a series of helping multiple times, they get a confidence that, yeah, you guys do have a lot of answers. You are very helpful, very
Yeah.
approachable, which is what we want to be.
I mean, that leads to good validation calls. So if all of a sudden a new candidate said, well, how are they helping you? And then I'll say, oh, you won't believe what happened to me last week. And then,
Right. Yeah.
then that's part of the validation process.
And we
So,
really want to help.
Yeah.
On one level, we just that's the right thing to do. But on the second level, if that franchisee isn't succeeding, we're not either.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
and we want them to grow. We don't want anyone to have to close their doors early,
Correct.
because
yeah.
we have to disclose that on our franchise disclosure document. That's full transparency.
Yeah.
We have, on this document, Bill, we have to disclose if we've ever had bankruptcies or been sued
Yeah.
or been in litigation or been arrested. It's like you have to expose yourself to everybody.
and part of that as you grow is how many units did you sell? How many are still in business?
Yeah.
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 How many didn't make it? I mean, that's sobering. You really want to make sure that
Yeah.
you're picking
Yeah.
good people who have the right motivations
Right.
and that you're supporting them the correct
Because
way.
it ultimately affects your brand, right?
Yeah.
It
And our
affects
bottom
everybody.
line too,
Yeah,
just
the
in a
bottom line,
business sense.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it affects everybody, right? If one franchise unit fails or goes under, doesn't do well, it literally reflects everybody.
Yeah. I got a question for you, Trish. You obviously you're in it, but you kind of have a sideline view a lot of what is one thing that kind of stood out in this whole process to you that maybe I hadn't seen or thought about, that you just kind of saw that we had to go through, that made a mark in your brain, a memory mark.
Well, I think the thing that stood out for me the most about FranGrowth is how organized and how process driven they are. And then on top of it, they're just so nice. But even in all of that, I think the thing that they do the best, which is the smartest, and I've had to learn this over and over again in my own business, is really putting the effort into the validation process, right? And it doesn't mean that, hey, if we don't do business, it doesn't mean you're a good person or a bad person or whatever. It just means we're not going to be a good fit for both people to be successful, right? It doesn't mean, oh, they're a bad company, they're a good company, right? I've had to learn that over and over again in my own business. So anytime I have my own little vetting process with clients, and I have the things that I know, if they say something, I know that if I ignore the thing they said and I take them anyway, I can predict, like I know when I do it, if they say this, then they're going to end up dropping me in this much time.
Mhm.
And it happens every single time, right? So
Yeah.
when I take somebody against my better judgment, right, then it ends exactly the way I predicted it to be. And it doesn't mean that they're a bad client, right? That's
Just not a fit,
it's
maybe.
just who they are, right?
Mhm.
And that's okay. But I have to know that going into it, right? And
Yeah.
so it helps me hone who I'm looking for. And FranGrowth has done that. They've honed who they're looking for with an emerging brand. And that's why they have the success rate they do, which is like, what, 100%? So,
Mhm.
It's not quite that, but it's pretty good.
Yeah.
And you touched on something really briefly. They are so passionate at FranGrowth about what they do, and they're just so put together. when they ask for something, do you get, I mean, I kind of get the sense you don't want to disappoint them.
Right.
I
Yeah.
really like this teacher and I want this report to be really good to make her happy, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, and the positivity, they're very positive people, even if they have feedback, even if it's criticizing, it's not even criticizing. It's like, hey, how about you do this way, or this will make it better. Right.
Mhm.
They always are in this process of improvement, and they want you to win. We want them to win. It's fantastic.
Yeah. To your point, it's kind of, the more you do this and you say you lose a client that was, not cheap. They were a good client. It's interesting to see how there's always something better on the horizon. Right?
Always. Yeah.
So when disaster hits, I mean, in my personal life, man, I tell you what, my only divorce was hard. It was difficult the way that I broke down, but I had to go through some pain
Yeah.
to have the life I have now. Right.
Right.
And so sometimes it's okay to say no or to lose a client, because in the end, you're a better company and it's a better fit
Yeah.
long term.
Yeah. We definitely learn with everyone, right? And sometimes I learn, well, I really should not have given on that red flag, or, on that criteria, right? So there's just, for example, if I have a conversation with somebody and one of the first things out of their mouth is about price, it's not a good fit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because they're price sensitive, super price sensitive, and our prices are super reasonable, but just there are people who can't afford us, but that doesn't mean
Mhm.
our services aren't worth that, right?
Right.
And then
But
some.
knowing your worth is important.
Yeah.
And you bring great value. And that was our thing, because Bill and I have been penny pinchers,
By necessity
By
and by
necessity.
nature.
Right.
and to then all of a sudden out of nowhere, we weren't looking for FranGrowth. We were just looking for, how can we grow?
Right.
And
But we were looking for something, weren't
looking
we?
for something. And then all of a sudden God laid it in our lap, and then he said yes. And like, okay, well, to make it happen, we had to not be penny pinchers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had to
That was the mind
Open
shift.
up the bank vault.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the mind shift that needed to happen, and the tactical shift. At the same time, thank God you found somebody who
Mhm.
really knows the business of growing a
Oh,
brand.
It's impressive.
They
It's
really know
truly
the business.
impressive.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I wouldn't have opened the bank vaults for anybody else.
right.
And we weren't ready to do it.
I agree with that statement.
If someone had come to me saying, you need to be part of the IFPG and it's going to cost you X number of $1,000 a month,
Yeah,
I would have said, next, because
Right.
I'm not going to drop on an unproven thing. But to have someone who you trust, say, oh, this is the best thing for you.
right.
Like, matter of fact, don't just limp in, become an elite member.
Yeah,
Become somebody who's going to stand out in the crowd.
Mhm.
Like, oh, so that's important,
Yeah.
right? Okay, great.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. And they
Well,
really
again, good
have. I mean,
advice.
these guys have been pretty incredible
Yeah.
the whole way.
So, with everything that's happened last half of 2024, don't you get the sense that maybe this holiday season was a little bit of a calm before the storm?
Totally.
Not that
I
there's going to
mean,
be a storm. I'm just saying there's going to be a lot of
busy
activity, but it does
season.
feel like a period of calm.
It is. And I'm, in the quiet of my time in my heart, I'm getting the message that enjoy it right now, because it's been a busy year, and next year is going to have even more good things,
Yeah.
for us and other folks. And, I love this brand. I love the way you guys do business, right? I think that's why we connect so well, because we do
Yeah.
business the same way. It's just about being fair and open, honest and flexible, and do the
Yeah.
right thing. And it's really that simple.
I tell you what's really exciting is that it's not just me and Bill and even you, Trish, being excited for what's going to happen. It's just that all of our family,
Everyone
all
in
of
our orbit,
friends,
everybody.
our employees. I mean,
Yeah.
Mike Elliott, he eats lunch with us almost every day, and he is just
He wants the dirt every day. What's happening?
He just wants to know what happens, and he's not an owner.
Right.
But he acts like an owner.
He does.
He's just so vested. I mean, all of my office staff is so vested. Heck, Gigi, our bookkeeper. I mean, we've always, accused her of reverse embezzling. She's just so.
She secretly puts money in the
Like,
company.
I swear she puts money in, and
amazing.
because they're all like in the updates are like, hey, what's going on? What's the update? Hey, what's going on with this candidate? And they're all super excited.
Yeah.
People in our BNI and
Yeah.
our networking groups, they all want to know what's happening, and just because they're excited. And then even other franchisees that I meet, they're all like, oh man, I wish I'd known about Hole in the Wall prior to. And so you get this buzz and this excitement. It's, growing up, I got this bad tick that when I get excited, I start scratching the back of my head. I don't do it as much anymore. I start rubbing my hands together.
I thought you just had fleas.
Yeah. But I get excited. My old mentor, Brian Piccolo, he says, is this a one-handed scratch or is it a two-handed scratch? And so, it's because if you get really excited about something, you just kind of get this really big, stretch, or you start rubbing your hands like, man, is this going to happen? God, thank you so much. And so being able to just have that momentum and just the love and support of people in our friend group, in our family group. I mean, my dad's a serial entrepreneur, in a missionary, and like he's excited for us. Yeah. He was kind of, oh, careful, these guys, we don't want anyone stealing your money. But he sees the excitement, he sees the proof that's in the pudding. He's like, man, it's just a nice excitement.
Yeah. One other thing we didn't even mention, Trish, when we now, we've been to several of the franchise conventions with different organizations, and we'll be doing several of those again this year. Other franchise sales organizations are going, oh, I wish we'd have got to you before FranGrowth.
Yeah.
There's a couple brands out there. I was like,
I wish we'd have met you guys.
It was FranGrowth. Oh, I wish we would have met you first.
Yeah.
But their next comment always is, but you're in good hands.
Yeah.
You're gonna
they do all
fine.
say that, which is pretty.
Yeah. Or they're like,
remarkable.
and if you change your mind, we're here.
Yeah, we're here for you.
Yeah,
that's nice.
Yeah, it really is nice.
It's been a great journey. Fun meeting the people. Fun doing the business.
Yeah, and it's just, I don't know, I'm excited. I'm glad we just took this last hour to kind of talk through, kind of catch up. I mean, the 4 listeners we have that might be interested in this portion of it. But we just appreciate the year that we've had. We just did a whole year in review podcast. We talked about all the guests and all the things we talked about. So there's a lot of exciting things. We got a lot of things in store for the podcast this coming year.
Excited about some of the people coming on.
Man, it's
some new people, some repeats that have updates. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and frankly, it's selfish because like every time I meet someone cool, I'm selfishly kind of excited. Oh, I'm so glad we had that person.
Yeah,
and sometimes we hire them, and sometimes they just become friends. I mean, I got a text yesterday from Sanjay, and he's in India. Hey, I'm thinking about you, buddy. It's I absolutely love the connections we've made with all these people
and the learning experience.
Yeah.
Right. It's like a type of education, these conversations.
And there's stories that people have that are people learn from, to have a repeat guest come back. I mean, when you were just talking about TNT coming back.
Yeah.
What was his name again?
Oh, Matt Snowberger.
Yeah. And he's excited to share his journey and his growth with the listeners back on our podcast. I mean, that's fabulous. So
yeah, it's good stuff.
So it's a shorter off the wall, but I definitely think I feel good being able to talk about it because sometimes you just have to reminisce about what has happened and you kind of enjoy that ride.
You know what? There's a real value, James. We've had, we've had a shared experience. Mm-hmm. And it's good to rehearse it. It's good to say it out loud. Here's what's happened. Here was my view on it. Here, and then we have a common basis now. And I love that going forward. It is really going to be an exciting year, truly.
Yeah, it will. So I wanted to have this conversation and really document what we thought was going to happen, what our predictions are, what we think that's going to look like.
I predict you're going to be getting a new car.
You may have some inside knowledge.
Unrelated to Hole in the Wall. Yes. We're not buying a new car.
So, no. And for the record, I pinch pennies and squirrel money away too. And I've been doing that for a few years. I'm going to trade in my car with 175,000 miles on it. So I get something that does not have 175,000 miles.
Yeah, right. Good for you. And that's you showed pictures in the pre-show.
Yeah.
The beautiful car.
Yeah.
You deserve it. I don't know anybody deserves it more.
So I appreciate it.
Well, listen, thank you both for playing along today. It was great.
Fun.
I'm glad we were able to make it work.
Yeah.
And if you made it this far, listener, an hour in, I thank you for listening. And
absolutely.
For
we
being
appreciate
part of our journey as well.
Yep.
And we wish you a great 2025.
And we'll be back next week, right?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to it.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'd like to thank you for listening to the Hole in the Wall Business Podcast with Bill and James. We'd love for you to join our Facebook group and keep the conversation going. If you'd like to learn more about us and our business, check us out at holeinthewall.com. If you'd like to learn more about how to start a Hole in the Wall franchise, go to holeinthewallfranchising.com.